and consumption was not taken into that fee. And that, therein lied the problem, in addition to a computer system they just brought on. It's called the Harris system. None of the help was in tune to, they hadn't been trained fairly. So again, what I had to do was go over there, try to get those people calmed down, get the system going, and get those bills out, and redo a water and sewer rate. Now you've got a bunch of elected officials who you're trying to convince to increase a water and sewer rate to cover the expenses to the tune of maybe 15 to 20%. Not very popular to the people. So everywhere I tried to go, there was somewhat resistance to get it to the point where it would even out. We finally now have a rate in place that's taking care of it. And I will tell you also, Jack, what ended up happening, and I inadvertently found out with my financial director, many of the projects for water and sewer that had been voted in articles over the past few years at town meeting, the amounts of money were coming out of different areas, and not like retained earnings, places like that, where they should have been, they were I&I projects, and they should have been coming out of a grant loan, if you will, that we were sitting on over a couple of $1 million from the MWRA, and nobody was taking this, using it as a source of funding. Just found that out. We've been dealing with DOR, who's very concerned about our water and sewer deficit, have shown them where we're able to now take those amount of monies for those articles, take the source of funding, put it where it should be, and they are in agreement now that we're doing everything we can. We have now lessened that deficit down, I would say, I think from 1.8 million down to about $200,000.
Yeah, I had read estimates of up to 2.5 million.
Right, way down. We're down to about 200,000, and we even think we can make that up. We have cut expenses, we have cut all overtime, and I did that immediately. These are the sort of things that I can do, and I'll tell you how I did that. I went over, took over the water and sewer department, got over there and stayed there till noontime about 3 days a week, making sure that people were doing what needed to be done to get to that point. Those are the things that I felt I could do. I certainly couldn't take over the department because we had so many issues, as you know, in other places. In our building department, you know, we had issues there. I'm without a building director right now. I was on a 45, as you know, 45 leave, unpaid leave, day leave. I'm over there every single morning. I set them up. I make sure there are no issues with any of the closings they're doing. And that's a tough department because there was some infighting. I have to make sure everybody's working toward the same goal. And I'm very good at that. I'm very proud of the work. I wanted to give you some of the positives that I've done. I had a department head meeting the first week I was in the position, and I told the department heads that I wanted to accomplish a few things, and I have accomplished those. One was a combined collection services within the tax collector. I have to tell you, it took me almost the 2 years to get that to the point where it is now. At least they're taking trash payments, and they will be taking water and sewer payments. To convince an elected tax collector that you now need to be a collector was a real tough thing. Keep in mind, I'm still dealing with the fragmented form of government, where the elected officials tell you go pound sand if they want to, because they don't have to comply. They're not under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. So that makes it very tough. That was one of the things I promised, and that is in effect. I promised them that I would be making sure that I could implement the fuel depot. They had a wonderful plan for a fuel depot that they had shelved, and they said, town meeting won't give us this money. They let me see it, we looked it over, went back out for an RFP, and that's going to be opened up, saving the town, let's say a per gallon rate of whatever the pump rate is minus 3%, which is what they're paying now at Sunoco, to I think it's a consortium rate of $2.23. Excuse me, plus state tax. So there'll be a considerable amount of savings in that, and I've been able to accomplish that. When I went into the position of executive secretary, there was absolutely no capital improvement plan in place at all. How they dealt with capital projects and capital funding. The night before town meeting, they got together and said, okay, what do we need capital? There was no future planning, no 10-year plan, no 5-year plan. Having experience from Weymouth, I was able to form a committee, told them I would do it. We have a committee going with every department head affected, schools, everywhere, all the way down the line. We meet at least once a month, sometimes 2 times a month, and we have accomplished forming an improvement plan upwards to the point, I'd say the cost is going to end up being about $200 million. As you know, Braintree hasn't invested a whole lot of money in their roads and their infrastructure. The buildings are falling apart. It's very sad. Their debt is 2%. It's almost unheard of. They don't borrow. For some reason, they just don't like to borrow. They've always been afraid if they went to town meeting that they'd shoot them down. Borrowing is part of your budget. You have to do it to keep everything sound. That plan we will be giving the last town meeting on November 13th a sort of highlight of that plan, and this will enable the mayor-elect in November to see, at least have a view. He may not agree with it and may want to tweak it and change it, but this plan has to be in effect and handed over to a town council within a very short amount of time after the mayor takes over. Now, Braintree's going to be going through culture shock as it is, going from one form of government to another, and they're very fragmented and very separated, and they're all into their little fiefdoms. Now is going to come in a strong mayor who's going to try and combine all of that wonderful, and it's going to work out very well for the town. I think this new form of government is going to work very well for Braintree. It's going to be very tough if you don't have the tools in place. I am working on a transition committee, that we have finished basically a cursory review of all of the bylaws, taken out, the usual Board of Selectmen and put in mayor, But in addition to that, we've made some recommendations, 3 of which will make subtle changes to the charter, because their charter is a legislative act and they'll be able to do that. I'm very proud of that. But the improvement plan, what that has done, the departments were afraid to bring out what their needs were for fear of not being acted on at town meeting. When we finally put this on paper, it's very scary. And there is just so much to do. And again, it will be a powerful tool for the mayor to be able to go to the town council and say, nothing's been done. Years and years of neglect. This is what we have. It's the capital improvement plan is looking at $200 million. Now we need to prioritize and see what we can do, what should be done. It's a tool, and I think it'll be a valuable tool, and I'm pretty sure the mayor-elect will thank our group for that. These people will also be able to stay in place when the mayor, if the mayor so chooses, because they've been working with it now for almost a year, and they're part of this plan. So that was a big accomplishment in my opinion.
Let's move over to Weymouth now. Who's the fire chief under Mayor Kay?
I will tell you that, and this is interesting, and again a fair question because it's going to hit us very quickly. I was part of the town council the evening that Mayor Madden brought the fire chief, the current fire chief, Chief Leary, in, and the appointment was going to be made. I was really surprised when one of the councilors asked the question, are you going to make the chief interim? Knowing that Mayor Madden had taken a leave of absence and nobody really knew if he was coming back or not. Mayor Madden stated that no, this was going to be a permanent position. I don't know what anybody thought of that, but it was at Mayor Madden's request that this be a permanent position. That being said, I think that we're going to be looking at possibly a court case. It's certainly going to involve civil service. The charter will supersede civil service, I believe, but it's still going to end up in some sort of litigation. I don't know that I can discuss, and I really can't discuss that now because I'm not quite sure where it will go. But that's where it is, and make no bones about it, that he was put in permanently, so I believe that probably gives him stronger grounds, and at the very least, I think we're going to be looking at litigation coming down the road, and I certainly couldn't comment on that.
Well, let's talk about hypothetics then. There's a state law that allows public safety heads, such as police chiefs or fire chiefs, to take a leave of absence to serve as an elected official, mayor in their town, and then regain their position. Is that a law that should be changed?
I think that it gets complicated, and I don't know all the specifics and what led to it, from a public safety standpoint. So I guess I'd have to look into that more. I will tell you that as I believe the charter reads, I'm not quite sure if the fire chief after the leave of absence has to come back as the chief. I'm not quite sure of that, and again, it will get into legal matters, and I'm certainly not an attorney. I think that would have to be looked at because, as evident, there are issues. Civil service has been contacted. I contacted them myself about this specific issue, and their comment is, oh, we've never run up against this. So, I mean, gee, thanks. That's certainly not an answer. Another interesting thing is when the charter was being created, I was there the evening that the charter committee, commission, was insisting on having that leave of absence provision. And I remember saying to them, well, what if the fire chief or the police chief were to run? And everybody, oh, fire chief, police chief's not going to run. And here we are. So